Welcome to Confessions of an SEO. This is Carolyn Holzman. These are my experiences in SEO as both an SEO and an SEO tester. There are no regurgitations of Google announcements, but instead, I do watch their feet. So if you're the independent or agency SEOs, I get you. And if you're a business owner or stakeholder who doesn't really understand SEO, well, for many years, I was a local business owner, and I understand the frustration of trying to be in charge, but not when it comes to something like SEO, because it kind of has a smoke and mirrors appearance. Special thank you to Confessions Testing and Research sponsor, the dental marketing guy, Justin Morgan. He owns and manages a marketing analyst and service firm for dentists. So you can find him by searching for the dental marketing guy or clicking the link in the description. All right, let's get started. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 41. So, am I the only one who feels like even we as marketers and SEOs get a lot of marketing calls and emails? You know, I find it especially charming when my husband forwards me all the ones he gets. He is not a marketer, and he jokes, well, you know, they think they'll do a better job for me than you are. Ha ha ha. So, made me start thinking, where do SEOs get new clients? And it reminded me of when I first started my agency. The prevailing method for SEOs to get new clients was to reach out to businesses and provide them with a report about their website and show them what perhaps was wrong with their site. Now, at the time, it sounded good. I mean, who doesn't want to know that kind of stuff? We're all very, very interested into our sites. So I tried that at first, and I was a little green around the edges, and I started to realize early on when I started talking with some of these business owners that there were some previous relationships in the mix. Suddenly, I'm getting grilled on why these things were wrong. They had an SEO agency, and did I think they were being cheated? Or worse, was their SEO intentionally ruining their business? Yikes! That was not the conversation I was expecting. I didn't realize how neurotic business owners can be. Well, and it seems strange also that they would ask someone who hadn't really met them yet if they, the business owner, should trust the people that they had hired previously. Oh, that was not why I was calling. You know, I would ask them if prior to my email or letter, were they unhappy? And most said no, that when I provided them that, it was the first time they had ever heard that something was wrong. Now, remember, those reports, there may or may not be issues, but it was the idea of getting your foot in the door. Well, I felt terrible because I didn't want to break up a working relationship, so I pretty much answered their questions and told them to give that report to their SEO company. And if they needed further explanation, I assured them that if they were minor, you know, it'd be fine. It might be something where they had to contact their hosting company, but to actually talk with their SEO company. But I think, you know, definitively have a call with their company first. And if they felt that their answers didn't make sense, well, then they had my contact information, and I wish them well, because God knows I wanted to get out of that conversation. Now, I hated that method with a passion. And the last thing that I had wanted to do was to cast doubt on a fellow SEO company or make the business owner feel bad about their decision to use them. And if that business could be persuaded by so little a thing as a report from someone, a complete stranger, not someone they didn't know, a complete stranger, if I were working for them on that basis, like, you know, if they fired their SEO company and hired me, what would stop them from doing the same thing when someone else sent them a report? So I'm sure there's some savvy folk out there that think that maybe they have a refined method to do all of that, cast doubt, but to do it in such a way that it's more unconscious. Now, I see you, you NLP people. So, in light of all that, I started to pre-rank some exact match domains. Now, for the uninitiated, those are domains that are the same as the search term, without the spaces in between the words. And when I started to get calls in from those sites, business owners, once they realized I wasn't in their city, they were like, well, you can't help me. And then I got to do the old, pulled it out of my pocket. Well, I ranked number 1 in your city and I'm not there. Why couldn't I do the same for you? And that was the winner. Yay. Now, also, additionally, I was getting a lot of word of mouth referrals. Now, isn't that the weirdest thing? SEO by word of mouth? You'd think we'd get it from our website, which leads me to the second weirdest thing. Leads that come through SEO agency websites through searches for SEO company city name, they are kind of like the worst kinds of leads. It's like a dating site where all the guys you get paired with have just come out of a horrible divorce. So can you say rebound relationship? Yep. In SEO, sometimes the repeat offenders, they start changing SEO companies every 3 months. In fact, I got to the point when a lead came in that way, who was someone I didn't know, I started by asking, have you worked with an SEO company before? Which almost always was a yes. And then the next question was, well, how long were you with them? Lo and behold, most of the time they were still working with the SEO company, but they were around 3 months and they were telling me they were unhappy. Now, I know we're talking about business here, but the dating analogy is really so appropriate. So as an SEO, if you wouldn't do it in dating, my advice is don't do it in SEO. And the same thing goes for business owners. If you have decided that 3 months is long enough to evaluate an SEO campaign, I got an idea. I think you should go to a bank. And I think you should tell them that what you want is to have $500,000 in an account and give them $100. And at the end of 3 months, go in and demand to know where your $500,000 is. Now, if you think of the $500,000 is the equivalent to page 1 in that scenario, you kind of get my message. So the SEO grass is not always greener on the other side. And I have found myself counseling these types of leads on sticking with their current SEO company. 3 months is not a long time. Onboarding can and often does take some time, possibly even a whole month. So likely they were planning a strategy and getting resources lined up to meet the need. And only in the 3rd month getting a lot of things launched. 3 months is hardly any time in an SEO campaign. I mean, great if you can get something sooner, but to expect anything earlier is, if you're in any kind of competitive niche in the city, that's a minimum. I always liken it to like the energy that you need to make something move. Like if it's stuck on the ground, the energy needed to make that thing start moving and keeping it going are 2 different power levels and different amounts of time. So not every site is ready for essentially an oceanic voyage. Things have to be fixed or more content has to be written and then approved. Oh my God, that was an eye-opener the first time I presented a couple of pages of content to be approved before putting it on the website. Holy cow. That took forever. So once things are in place, Google takes a minute to go from crawl to the link graph on these backlinks. So if you're betting on SEO to save you from imminent disaster, save your money. And when I say Google takes a minute, let me share you the results of a new content submission test that I was running. And I did it in the recommended way. Google recommends that you submit your sitemap and let them discover it. Well, in my latest test, that process took 57 days. before Google crawled. And that was this week. Well, 57 days is almost 2 months right there. So if that was a backlink, you can see why it takes a little while for backlinks to count, to help you. So of course, it is possible that the other SEO company is a dud. But if a business owner is ready to jump ship at 3 months with any agency, odds are they're going to do the exact same thing to you in 3 months. Ask me how I know. I have a client who personifies what I call like the best possible SEO client. Long-term, pays on time, trusts me implicitly, does whatever I ask, and when he starts to get hit on by another SEO company, he forwards me their pitch. And what strikes me about that is when he does that, he gives his understanding of what he knows he's buying. Now, a few years back, he happened to lose his domain name because the background's a little, it's like, you can imagine two partners. He was co-owner with his dad's partner, and that partner passed away a few years before then, which meant the ownership had passed to the man's family. And within that time, the domain expired and the relationships had kind of gone a little sour. And there was no help from the other side, which was listed as the rightful owner. Though through my client, I had access to the hosting, but the other partner had kept only access to the domain. So, okay, fine, not the best, but that way, when the site went down, I was able to call my client and just say, hey, I think the domain needs to be renewed. So it was too late. It was past some period of time. And it was really weird because the site was fine and then suddenly, boom, it was gone. So we managed to get almost a same domain. It was, instead of a plural use, it was a singular use. And we had the site back up within 24 hours. So I watched the original domain for like a whole year, and it was spammed to death. Then on the day it was supposed to be renewed, it wasn't. And then I followed it all the way through to the dropping and grabbed it in that time period where if the new owner wanted to renew it, they could have put it back, but they didn't. It was like $12. And I guess I had figured if I worked on it and it worked, I'd tell him and he'd be surprised. And if it didn't, I didn't have to tell him. We would just keep going the way we're going. Well, it worked and he was thrilled. And it was the first SEO tip I'd ever been given. I think I'd earned them previously, but the first time anybody gave me one. And he and his family were like, we knew you were good and you cared about our business. And now you'll never get rid of us. You really went out of your way and we don't forget loyalty. Now, I realize in this day and age, it's a bit old-fashioned to expect loyalty in SEO clients. I know they sure expect it from their SEOs, like they don't want us to take on their competitor. They want us to watch their back business-wise as if it were our own business. And God forbid any of that would stop them from canceling their contracts because somebody else made them a better offer. Okay, most days I'm not bitter. There's a reason why certain businesses just can't get their act together. But in general, I think SEO clients are all not the same. And most are moving on whether or not they get the results they paid for, which is why client SEO is not my favorite kind of work. I get too vested into their business, and most have unrealistic expectations despite all the upfront assurances from them that they do understand what you're saying about timelines. So when I can figure out how to make client SEO more sticky, I think then I'll have really figured something out. And meanwhile, we move onward and upward to the right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Remember to catch the daily crawl or no crawl reports on YouTube. You can find them by just searching for crawl or no crawl. Add the word YouTube at the back and it'll be right at the top. You'll see it. And then click on the link in the description to subscribe so YouTube can notify you. Thank you for being a listener. Thank you to all the sponsors of Confessions that help support this work for themselves and others. And special thanks to Justin Morgan, the dental marketing guy. If you'd like to support this podcast and SEO research too, there's a link in the description. It takes you over to anchor.fm. And there's a bit.ly link in the description. It's bit.ly/confessions sponsor. 2 S's in the middle. So please subscribe. If you haven't settled on one source for your podcast, you can just Google Confessions of an SEO and you cannot miss it. It's been my pleasure to be with you. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the SERPs.